So next, let's try to figure out an elevation. This is, again, a sample elevation. We have this west elevation, which we are looking from this direction right here. So that means that this is the face that we're seeing right, this face right here is a face that we're seeing right here. Okay, and this little area right here and the doorway, that's the doorway, and this is the little wall right there. This portion right here is this portion right here. So when I look at this thing, when I'm looking at from this direction, it looks like I am faced with this as my foreground, and the very back is of course this, but then what I see is this wall right here as the second, or the furthest away in this picture plane. Okay, so I'm going to identify this plane right here as the part that's furthest away from me, and this plane right here that is the closest. I know I have this little detail right here, but for clarity I might want to express this as my my plane, my closest plane. So for this case right here, I am going to express this doorway and this wall as the furthest line that is receded back from this picture plane. So picture that, and that guy right here, is that. Okay, and with that I identified this as the furthest part away, and since this is the next line that's in, I will use a thicker line for that, and that might be, I'm going to try this 8 this time. The only part of this line that I see, or I am going to see, you can go ahead and mark all this, but then you are going to cover it up, so I'm not going to bother with it myself, is this edge right here. That's really the only edge that I can see from this portion right here, because all of this line is going to be hidden by this face. So now, taking care of this part right here, this whole face, I might say that this will be, I'll start from the bottom here. And make this the thickest line. And over here, what I'm going to do is to, like I said, I could go all the way across here, and that could express one plane. However, since this part right here is part of the same plane, that part right there is receding back a little bit, I am going to go ahead and make a little sawtooth pattern out of this. Okay, this guy right here. And this portion right here is the vertical part of that wall. Okay, and then come around the bottom to the other side of the wall. To the soffit. And then back to the doorway part of this wall. And then this surface right here. then the bottom part of that surface, and then this goes straight across, and then down to the ground. Okay, that basically explains this portion of the composition. Now, we have this portion back here. I guess we could take that to the medium. So medium in this case was, I think, about there. And putting it a little bit below the tops of that drawing. What that means is that get it a little bit underneath. So even though it's the same elevation, if you make it a little bit lower, this surface right here tends to look like it's coming towards you a little bit more, and these back here are receding away. Okay, so that's how you organize a line weight in elevation. Now, for the ground on the elevation, the ground plane would be considered the thickest line weight. So if you use the thickest line weight, if you thought that was the thickest line weight, the ground is describing a cut. Alright? Ground is describing something that the building has landed on. So what you might do is to make this the heaviest line. So we might double up the line a little bit. So it looks like all of this is landing on something heavy, something immovable like the earth. Okay, so if we go back to the patterns that we did for the floor plans and sections, where we identify what's the lightest line, what's the midline, what's the heavy line, we might say that this is the light line. Which is this guy right here, and then this guy right here. Sorry Audrey, I'm going to have to cut across you. Is the midline, and then we have the heavy line, which is the surface of this wall. Of course, in this case we have the ground line as well. Which becomes the heaviest line on an elevation drawing.